Hello my friends, in today's video we will take a look at the Zhongyi Mitakon Speedmaster 35mm T1.0 cinema lens. ZY Optics is an established lens manufacturer best known for making very bright micro four thirds lenses. 35mm T1.0 is their latest manual cinema lens made for APS-C, APS-H and also micro four thirds cameras. I have tested the X-mount version with Fujifilm X-T4. In this video we will take a look at the performance and the cine features of Speedmaster T1.0 to find out whether you should consider getting one. 35mm on APS-C translates to 52.5mm full frame equivalent. 50mm is one of the most popular focal lengths suitable for a wide variety of usage. You can use it for people, tighter B-roll shots, products, or even general urbane filmmaking, which is what I use it for. At T1.0 it is a very bright lens, which also makes it suitable for blurring the background. For all intended purposes, T-stops are basically a more accurate version of f-stops, measuring the actual amount of light that gets through the lens. This lens is just 8 cm long, so it is very compact. It weighs 615 grams, which is also pretty good for T1.0. The build quality is great. It is completely metal, so there are no plastic parts. It definitely feels like a product designed for professional use. The mount is metal as well, of course, but there is no weather sealing gasket. As you can see, there are no electronic contacts, which means that this is a fully manual lens. One of the most important aspects of any cine lens are the mechanics. The focusing ring is very precise. The resistance and the focus throw are set very reasonably, so it is a good compromise between the precision and the ability to make faster transitions. The aperture ring is extremely smooth, so it is very easy to make precise exposure changes using the aperture. If you are used to focus by wire systems, this kind of mechanical focusing will be a massive upgrade. My only complaint regarding the focusing is the scale, which is in imperial units. Metric units would be much more useful for me. There are also gear cocks on both rings, which can be used for follow focus devices. The front element is pushed relatively far inside. The front part of the lens basically acts like an integrated sun hood. There is also a 77mm filter thread. Regarding the optical qualities, I have tested this lens with a fairly demanding 26.1 megapixel sensor in Fujifilm X-T4. Despite that it is a cine lens, I have done my standard testing just to give you an idea. At T1.0, the central sharpness itself isn't that bad. The problem is that the contrast is very low and there is a lot of chromatic aberration. T1.4 is already much better. The sharpness is very solid and the contrast is much higher, but there is still a lot of chromatic aberration. T2 already looks very good in the center. The sharpness is great, there is plenty of contrast and most of the aberration is gone. T4 looks basically perfect. T5.6 and T8 look the same. Chromatic aberration kicks in at T11, which is very good for T1.0 lens. In the corners, the level of detail at T1.0 is again not that terrible, but the contrast is very weak and there is a lot of chromatic aberration. There is a bit more contrast at T1.4, but it is still not great. T2 already looks pretty solid in the corners. The contrast is much better and the sharpness is also very good. T4 and T5.6 looks great in the corners. The sharpness is very solid and so is the contrast. T8 is just as good. The diffraction is only visible at T11, which is very positive. Overall, I am happy with the sharpness. T1.0 is still usable for video in normal real-world situations. The sharpness from T2 to T8 is generally great and more than sufficient for 4K video. The real-world video generally looks really good. X-T4 can shoot very detailed downsampled 4K DCI video and this lens is a good match. As I have said, the level of detail is sufficient for 26 megapixel stills, so this is more than good enough for 4K or even 6K video. The color rendition is also very nice, especially above T2. You will get plenty of contrast to work with, and it is a really good match for Eterna film simulation. The minimum focus distance is about 35 cm and the magnification is 0.13 times. You can shoot your Omega Speedmaster with Zhongyi Speedmaster, but it isn't really meant for semi-macro use. At T1.0, this lens is obviously very suitable for subject separation. It has 9 aperture blades and the bokeh is reasonably smooth. Surprisingly, the bokeh circles are pretty round, at least in the center of the frame, which was not the case with Fujifilm 50mm f1.0. In busier situations, you will get some outlines, but the rendition is decent overall. Regarding the focus breathing, the amount is not terrible, but I wouldn't exactly call it a low amount. Having said that, this is not a 5-figure cine lens, so it is acceptable, and I don't think that it ruins your shots or anything like that. This lens is obviously not stabilized. Fortunately, X-T4 has very effective in-body image stabilization. It is actually very effective even at this focal length. 35mm T1.0 has some heft to it, and that is a benefit for stabilization because heavier setup is always easier to stabilize. This combination actually works great for my handheld B-roll shots. The combination of X-T4 and Speedmaster 35mm T1.0 is generally great in my opinion. This combination is extremely affordable by cine standards, but it provides great output. X-T4 shoots great 4K DCI or Ultra HD video in 10-bit and up to 400 megabits per second. I'm also a big fan of the colors in X-T4. The in-body image stabilization is also very useful. I will make a dedicated video about the X-T4 cine rig and overall use of the X-T4 for video, so stay tuned for that. Last but not least, this lens is very budget friendly by cine lens standards, and I think that it provides a great value. It is actually the first T1.0 lens that you can use natively with Canon RF mount, so if you spend most of your money on that red Komodo, this might be a very good choice. To sum up, I can say that Zhongyi Speedmaster 35mm T1.0 is generally a very good proposition. It is very well built, fairly compact, and it provides a good size to performance ratio. The optical qualities are very solid. T1.0 is suitable for background separation, T2 and above provides very good output overall. The rendition of bokeh is quite nice as well. The focusing and aperture mechanics are also very good on this lens. The disadvantages are lower contrast below T2, which is to be expected, and the amount of focus breathing, which is not great but also not terrible, especially not at this price point. Overall, I can say that it is a very capable and reasonably priced cine lens, so I can recommend it. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you have found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.